And thank you all for joining us over this lunch break. So appreciate the chance to talk to business leaders, and I see community leaders on the call as well. And just so appreciate that. You know, I think Winnipeg enjoys a very special community on so many fronts, and including just how active our business community is in the social sector. We receive tremendous support from our business community, and I think there's a fundamental belief that a strong economy means a stronger social health in our community, and that good social health in our community helps to drive a stronger economy. So we're kind of linked at our very core. And certainly United Way has enjoyed a very strong partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, as Alana mentioned, from day one. There has been a real recognition that there's something special about coming together as a community in a united way. And there is no doubt in my mind that the experience of COVID over the last, I've lost track of the weeks, 10 or 11 weeks, that experience has really highlighted the great value of United. You know, when we put, for example, our dollars together in a united way, we are able to provide both stability and responsiveness in our community. And that happens every year. Just by way of a little further explanation, when we put our dollars together as donors, and some of us are in a position to give small gifts, some larger gifts, and some very big gifts, and certainly our business community does what they can. When we put all of our dollars together, we create a diversified portfolio in this community fund called United Way. And it works magic. In any given year, a donor may give more or less, a company may do well, a company may move out of town, another company may come into Winnipeg. And that those ups and downs get smoothed in this community fund, and we are able to provide stable funding to a network of organizations. We're also able to respond to community need. And as mentioned, over the last 10 or 11 weeks, our community has been in crisis response mode. It's been a crazy time, and yet we have seen this community come together and support each other as we always do, but at a faster pace than I perhaps have ever seen in my lifetime, and with tremendous results, and yet still needs ahead. Just to give you some sense of what we've been seeing at United Way in our community over the last couple of months, I thought I'd offer some examples of how we've been responding really on behalf of all of you, on behalf of our donors, on behalf of our partners, and of course our volunteers. One of the first things that we did, and that was on March 13th, was that we sent a note to all of our agency partners, and we said, you know what, we're heading into some pretty uncertain times. We know that you will use United Way donor dollars in the best way possible to meet the needs of community members. We are with you. You can count on the stability of United Way donors to be with you on this, and we trust you. The response from that has been tremendous. And Dave Angus and I received an email from Ron Brown shortly after that. Ron's the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. And he said in his email that it's United Way donors that are really the only source of stability in this very uncertain environment. And that can mean so much when you're supporting young people who are in at-risk situations. Another thing that we did was we immediately invested more. The first was the response, or the stability part. We immediately responded to be able to invest more, again, on behalf of our donors. Our early investments were in two areas: to homeless serving organizations and to family resource centers. Now, as you can imagine, if you've ever been to the Main Street Project, on a typical night, people sleep shoulder to shoulder on mats on the floor, about 70 people every night. Well, that is impossible to continue happen when you're in a pandemic situation. The risks of people getting the virus and that virus spreading are exponential. And so our early funding into homeless serving organizations, into 14 actually, was to support reimagination of the services they provide, including as basic as expanding the space that's available, but also how do you reach people to let them know about the virus and keep people safe? How do we ensure people have the food that they need when they can no longer come into the agencies? The other area of investment was family resource centers. And, you know, and again, you can imagine you're a single mom, you may have 2 or 3 children, and now there's no school. You live in public housing, you have a budget that just barely makes ends meet, and now your children are no longer getting breakfast or lunch programs. The stress on young families, on families in general, are high. And so our investment in 24 family resource centers, extra investment in those resource centers, was to help ease the stress. And those centers have been amazing. They have reinvented how they offer their support by establishing crisis lines, by taking food, emergency food kits and household supplies and activities for kids out to families. And of course, that work continues every day. Thousands and thousands and thousands of support kits have gone out. A third and final of many more examples would be an initiative that we were able to do because the federal government invested in United Way because of our knowledge in the community and our strong stewardship to try to reach vulnerable seniors in our city. And you know, the first thing we did there was bring together a table of people who know how to work in this space. Agent Opportunity, Bronx Good Neighbors, the Manitoba Association of Senior Centers, and together we realized, you know, to reach the most vulnerable seniors, we need a way to reach people. So we were so pleased to also bring to the table the City of Winnipeg's 311 service. And within 5 days, literally, we set up a system where vulnerable seniors or family members on their behalf could call 311. The call takers would transfer those calls to Agent Opportunity, where they have a triage of social workers who take those calls, understand the needs of the caller, and then make the necessary connections so that seniors can be supported. Those connections could be to Winnipeg Harvest to get a specialized food hamper for seniors. We arranged for CAA to deliver those hampers. It's just been an incredible demonstration of partnership. And again, I would say a demonstration of how we do everything in a United Way. Just as one example of one call, this was at 1:37 in the morning, middle of the night, if you can imagine, and a senior calling 311 the morning after this launched to say that they were self-isolating, that they really had no supports at all, no internet, no newspaper. They were caring for another senior, both feeling very vulnerable and low income, and literally said to 311, no one is asking for us. We can forget how isolated some people can be in a bustling city, and yet that is the reality for many, many people. I could go on in this crisis response and the good fortune we have in our community to have a united way of working. We've been through the sprint, and what we know now is that we are actually have turned the corner and are now running a marathon. Research shows that large-scale disasters are followed by increases in depression, in substance use, in a broad range of other mental health and behavioral disorders, domestic violence, child welfare issues, and more. And certainly family financial insecurity is kind of the tipping point for so many of these things. So we know we've got a big year ahead. As we look out, we see 3 areas where we need to pay particular attention. We also know this is a time when donors may not be able to give as they did before. And so we really need to broaden our net and get as many donors as we can to keep this stable network of 100 organizations in place and in a position to do even more. We've got 3 areas we're looking at. Mental health and addictions, lots of need there. We had that before COVID with the challenges around crystal meth. Well, those challenges are growing. Family stress and child welfare. Before COVID, Manitoba had the highest rate of children in care. We've recently seen the report from the Manitoba Centre for Health Policy that talks about how children in care the risks of going on to be involved in the justice system. 50% of kids go on to be involved in the justice system in some way. 2/3 don't graduate high school when they should. We just need to do all we can to lower family stress and keep families together. And then the third area of need is around job readiness, job skills. When you slip onto the edge of poverty or slip into it, the cycle can be downward and you can go down pretty fast. So the importance of being there for job readiness skills so that people can return to self-sufficiency or enter self-sufficiency as we all want is really, really important. So I would sum up by saying, you know, this business community in Winnipeg is amazing. We are so grateful for a chamber that partners with us to really promote this united way of being involved. Among the many things business does, we appreciate that business also chooses to work in a united way. And I just want to say, you know, thank you for all of that. It's just so appreciated.